We're back on Fresh Waves. This is our Remembrance Day program, and we're speaking with Evelyn Scott, who used to work for the Air Force back in 1942. Now, when you were working for the Air Force, there was obviously a lot of war things going on. The young guys were leaving to go overseas, and was anybody in your family involved in the war effort?
Well, my brother was in the Air Force, and my sister was married to a sailor. He was stationed in Halifax, and he used to get seasick so much that they gave him a job on shore. And very, very clever man. He built his own television set, and
wow,
he was very, very good. So anyway, he would look at my homework and he'd say, "How did you do this with the long division and all this?" And don't ask me. I said, just learn what the teacher taught me.
So when your brother was in the Air Force, did he go overseas or?
No, he was stationed in Centralia. It's just north of London, Ontario.
Okay.
He was stationed there, and they were flying Ansons, and they were. We just had a Tiger Moth and a Cornell, and they were just little aircraft. That's what we had. And we girls, there was a few of us that we worked on the ground crew.
Right.
And we looked after all the make sure they were clean, and we do the daily inspection on the airframe and on the engine too, to make sure that they were fastened to the plane, and everything was working well with the controls and but
now, after the war, did you continue to do things for the vets in the area?
No, I got a job at Emerson Electric.
Oh!
I went to work there. Yeah, so it was just on the line.
Right, but then you did stuff, you sold poppies.
Oh, well, I did at the shopping plaza. Sometimes I'd see them, and I'd show them my you can't see it. But
I
had a pin, and I
from the Air Force.
I said, this is what I wore during the war, my Air Force pin. And
then you would sell poppies.
Yeah, we would sell poppies. Well, we were with the Air Cadets.
Okay.
And I met the captain of the Air Cadets, and I was supposed to have an interview with him, and I don't know, I chickened out, I guess. I didn't get to see him, but anyway, I thought, well, I can't tell him anything that he doesn't already know anyway, because he was an Air Force man, and he knew his stuff. And
then you spoke at church last year.
I spoke at church last year, and I asked my priest if, I said, do you want me to say anything? Oh, no, he didn't want me to say anything. So, all right, okay, I'm not going to say anything then. I'll just let it ride. But I was one of the 3 women that were chosen Woman of the Year for our church, our town, Stouffville.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what did your mom tell you about the war when you got home at night? Was it?
Nothing. She never talked about it, no. My father was in the First World War, and he had... well, I was going to say he was gassed. He wasn't gassed. I forget what he had. But he was quite sick with that for quite a while. But he got over that, and he was really a tough fella.
So he had gone overseas then for World War I.
Yeah. He had his own horse. He raised it from a colt, and it went with him when he went overseas to Europe, and. He lost that horse. That horse died. I think what I heard was that all the horses that left England, they were all shot over in overseas.
Right.
They were not on purpose, but they were just in the line of fire.
Right.
Yeah. So
World War I was a different kind of a war. It was very. Person to person,
Yeah, my father-in-law he was gassed during the war, and he suffered nearly all his life with
from the mustard gas. Yeah. It was deadly stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it wasn't very good at all.
Yeah, it was, and he was a tough guy. And he, when my husband joined the Navy, I wasn't married to him then, and I was working for the Air Force, and then he said he told his dad, he says, I'm going to join the Navy. So and he went to Halifax, and he worked out of Halifax, and then we got married during that war, to the Second World War. We got married, and we were married in my church in Riverside.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so, but... yeah,
so you got married while the war was still on. Did he have to go back to Halifax after you were married?
No, we stayed in Windsor. We were stationed at the Windsor Flying School. The airport.
But what about your husband? Because he was in the Navy.
He went to Halifax.
Right.
Yeah, so, and I didn't follow him there.
Well, it's been really wonderful talking with you this morning, and we're going to play some Vera Lynn for you, because I know that you like Vera Lynn.
Oh, I do.
And you like Gracie Fields, too, but you like Vera Lynn. So we're going to play a Vera Lynn song, and when we come back, we're going to have Ivan Harris come and read us a poem or two.
Oh, that's
so that
nice.
Should be nice, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Okay, well, we'll be back in just a moment, so here's some Vera Lynn.
Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. Gay, give me a smile I can keep all the while in my heart while I'm away. Till we meet once again, you and I. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. Though I'm going on my way, don't feel so sad at heart. Keep this lovely moment as a memory apart. And before I go, please whisper soft and low, just once for me to hear the words, I love you, dear. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. Cheerio, here I go on my way. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. With a cheer, not a tear, make it gay. Give me a smile I can keep all the while in my heart while I'm away. Till we meet once again, you and I. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. Smile I can keep all the while in my heart while I'm away. Till we meet once again, you and I. Wish me luck as you wave me.
You're listening to Fresh Waves on Whistle FM. This is our Remembrance Day show. I'm your host, Bren Masson, and we'll be back right after these messages. This afternoon at 4:55 p.m., the bells of peace will toll at the clock tower in downtown Stouffville to honor the brave soldiers at Vimy Ridge. All are welcome. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them, lest we forget. This is CIWS 102.9 Whistle FM, Stouffville's own community radio station, streaming live on the internet at whistlefm.com. We're back on Fresh Waves. This is the Freshwaves Remembrance Day program on Whistle FM. I'm your host, Bren Masson. We have Evelyn Scott in the studio with us this morning, and Evelyn is a Stouffville resident who worked for the Canadian Air Force during the Second World War. And joining us now, we have the one and only Ivan Harris. Good morning, Ivan.
Good morning, Brenda. Nice to see you this morning.
Well, it's nice to have you here. We don't get this pleasure very often. You're always such a busy man. Now, you also can remember the war. You were just a little tiny guy at the time and not allowed to go and all that kind of stuff. But it was a time that affected everyone, even if you were a little one at home. There was a tension in the air. There was the CBC was on all the time. The radio was on at night, so you could hear the reports from the front. And, of course, this is the 100th anniversary of the First World War. And that's when John McCrae wrote that very famous poem. You're going to tell us all about it.
All right. Well, first I'm going to just lead up to that, and the fact that I live in the east side of Stouffville at Eastern Gate, and what we do once a year, we have a flag raising in May, and we have a flag lowering in November. And during the flag lowering, what we do, we speak to the people and let them know that we appreciate what the veterans have done in their sacrifice. And so today, I just thought what I'd do is I'd tell you about the making of the poem, and I've shortened it because it's quite a lengthy thing, but it was by on May the 3rd, 1915, on the battlefield, a young soldier named Cyril Allison, and he was delivering the mail that day when he spotted Major McCrae, and he was writing the poem that I'm about to read. And Allison said his face was very tired but calm as he wrote. And when McCrae finished 5 minutes later, he handed the pad to the young NCO, and Allison was moved by what he read. The poem was an exact description of the scene in front of both of us. He used the word blow in that line because the poppies actually were being blown that morning by a gentle east wind. It never occurred to me at the time that it would ever be published. It seemed just to be an exact description of the scene. I thought that was fascinating. And
that is.
Yes. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
In Flanders Fields. In Flanders Fields the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks, still bravely singing, fly. Scarce heard amid the guns below, we are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved, were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you, from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much for reading that.
We had that poem in our book at school. In Flanders Fields.
There was a little talk about the first line where he used the poppies blow. They thought maybe he had made a mistake and should have said grow. And so there was quite a talk in Parliament. And then they put it on the $10 bill.
I think so.
Yeah, it was a $10 bill. They put it on for a while, and it's all changed now. So, but anyway, that's my my contribution. But you asked me a question, the fact that when I was little and at home, and right today, anybody at my age, I'm old, can remember oilcloth on the windows to partially take out the light from the light. The car's headlights were covered except for a slit. things of that nature, sort of all during the war. It you wondered why. Why was that happening? Did that mean that they were flying overhead? They could see the car lights? I mean, we're talking Toronto, and that's far from everywhere.
Well, I guess they were always worried about the fact that the war might come to these shores eventually, because the Germans were gaining ground through a certain part of the war where it looked like there might not be an end to it, and without the U.S. stepping in, there was speculation.
They didn't join in with us for ages.
For a long time, right until the very end.
They asked my brother was in Florida, and he was talking about it, and he said, "How do you know all that?" And he says, "Well, we lived across the river from Detroit, and we're Canadians, and we had our own newsmen and everything, which we learned. We didn't pay too much attention to what the Americans were doing, because they were busy with the Japanese too. At the same time, we were at war with Germany." Yeah, so
and back at home, it's hard for people today to understand the whole token and the tickets. You were only allowed to buy so much meat. You're only allowed to buy certain dairy products, and you were given little tickets to allow you to do that. And to think. In our country, that we actually were restricted to this purchasing thing. It's hard, and mentally, you go back to say, gee, how did we even survive? But we did, sort of thing.
And at the time, they needed to take the food overseas because there wasn't very much food left in Europe, and the troops had to eat, and there wasn't very much left. I mean, France was scarce. The food was so scarce, and the Germans were taking it all from wherever they were, and they needed to have stuff to eat, so we rationed here so that we could send stuff overseas.
Right.
We never saw the ration books or anything. Us kids, my mother and my father, they controlled all the coupons and stuff that we would get through the war.
I was very fortunate. We were, my mother was the eldest of 10, and it was mainly a farm family. So the farm family, they would come down and bring us vegetables and potatoes and things of that nature, and turnips and things that we had all the time. So we never really suffered vegetable-wise.
Yeah.
And but it worked out well for us. So we're one of the few.
You're one of the few, but that was a good thing.
Yes.
It's a good thing that you had all,
yes,
all of those provisions available. Evelyn, I really appreciate you coming in this morning. I know that it's not the easiest thing to get down those stairs and to come into the radio station.
It was okay. It was all right, yeah.
But it was lovely to have you here, and thank you for sharing your memories of World War II. And
I loved working for the Air Force, and we were very strict.
Oh, I see.
Yes, well, we had our own uniform. They were sort of a grayish blue color. We had 2 skirts and a jacket and a hat and a greatcoat we wore. And we were not to talk if we went to Detroit, because we used to like to go over there. And we weren't allowed to tell them anything that was going on in Canada. War-wise, we weren't allowed to do that, so we just kept quiet about it. But anyway, they always felt that they won the war. So, but actually, we were more involved in it than the Americans were.
That's definitely true.
Well, anyway, we were proud Canadians. Yeah.
Well, my dad's family was living in Timmins at the time, and my dad's oldest brother was in the Air Force, and he was shot down over Copenhagen, my Uncle Eugene. And my Uncle Charlie drove a tank on D-Day.
Oh, yeah.
And now, he came home from the war, but he had suffered some wounds from the shrapnel that gets inside the tank, and then it just ricochets off of everything. Yeah. And it also gave the guys a blood disease similar to leukemia. So he died when I was 13. He had a blood disease that he got in World War II.
Now, in my family, my brother, he was in the Air Force, but he never left Canada. He went and trained out in Summerside, and then came back and he worked at Jarvis. And if you look up the map, Jarvis is not near any airport at all. But it was called Jarvis because it was the post station. That was the closest post office to the airfield that was in Jarvis. big airfield down
I
towards
see.
Leamington Way, where you mentioned earlier. And anyway, he repaired the aircraft, and he never left Canada.
Well, that's fortunate for him. It's
Yes,
a
it
lot
was.
safer to be here than it was to be overseas, that's for sure. Yeah, you wouldn't have wanted to do your job, Evelyn, if you were overseas. It wouldn't have been a very nice job.
Oh, swinging props. Well, we had Tiger Moss, and you had to swing a prop to get the engine going. And I reached up for it. It didn't start the first time I pulled a prop down. I reached up to grab it, and it cut me across here and broke my hand.
Oh.
So I was off work for about a month, I guess, with 2 broken bones here.
Oh, my. There's a war wound. You were wounded in World War II. You should have one of those special medals.
Yeah.
You should. We should apply.
Okay.
Okay,
We'll follow that up.
We're going to apply for that. Okay. Well, I want to thank you again, Evelyn, for coming in. I know it's not easy to get here, and it was really nice to have you. And Ivan, thank you for that little story about Flanders Field, because we hear the poems so often, and
Yes.
like you said, Evelyn, you have to remember it in school.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
my kids had to remember it in school. And it's part of the Remembrance Day process, isn't it? To teach the little kids what it was about. And you don't want to scare them or frighten them, because the war was really awful. But they should remember, and they should appreciate. And in the next hour, we'll have some really nice little clips of the Whitchurch Highlands Public School students with their Cards to Kandahar. And Cards to Kandahar was a program that was established in Stouffville, where children at the public schools would write a letter to a Canadian soldier who was stationed over in Kandahar. And they would all be bundled up together at the end. A couple of people volunteered to go around to the schools and gather up all of these letters and send them to Kandahar. And some of the soldiers wrote back, and some of them actually, when they came back to Stouffville, one in particular went to one of the schools to say thank you for the letters that he got, because it was such a nice thing to have these kids write them letters. And I'll never forget a little grade 1 student. We were going through the letters, and one of the volunteers said, "Oh, we can't send this one." And I said, "Really, why not?" And I was expecting it to say something crazy, because we did have a couple of letters that said, "I know what death is like. My hamster died last week and I'm really sad." And those are cute, and I think they should go, because I think that's a child's actual thoughts. This little person wrote the shortest card of all the cards. It had a poppy on the front, and on the inside it said, "Dear soldier boy, please don't die. Love, Sue." And I thought that was the best card of all of them, and this person didn't want to send it, and I said, "It's the best card there is, and we need to send it." So thanks again for coming in, Evelyn. Thank you, Ivan. We're going to take a little break now.
This next song, too, began its life in one way and then took on an entire new meaning for a new generation who discovered it. It was written originally as a poem by a German Jewish soldier serving in the First World War. And that's the way it stayed until just before the outbreak of the Second War, when it was turned into a song. But it was only when it began to be broadcast by Radio Belgrade that it became contentious. Because it wasn't just German soldiers who were listening to it and whistling it and singing it. British troops in North Africa started to tune in. And of course, that couldn't happen, could it? You couldn't have British soldiers listening to German radio. They might get ideas. So suddenly a new English translation had to be rushed out, and a French one, so that the Allied soldiers could sing their own versions. So what was so special about this song? Like so many other songs dear to soldiers, it spoke of love and tenderness. It spoke of a love enduring beyond the soldier being sent away far from the woman he loved. And that's why it spoke across languages and nationalities, and to my mind, still does now. This is, of course, Lily Marlene.
Underneath the lantern by the barrack gate, darling, I remember the way you used to wait. 'Twas there that you whispered tenderly that you loved me, you'd always be my lily of the lamplight, my own Lily Marlene. Time would come for roll call, time for us to part. Darling, I'd caress you and press you to my heart, and there 'neath that far-off lantern light, I'd hold you tight, we'd kiss goodnight, my lily of the lamplight, my own Lily Marlene. Orders came for sailing somewhere over there, all confined to barracks was more than I could bear. I knew you were waiting in the street, I heard your feet, but could not meet, my lily of the lamplight, my own Lily Marlene. Resting in a billet just behind the line, even though we're parted, your lips are close to mine. You wait where that lantern softly gleams, your sweet face seems to haunt my dreams, my lily of the lamplight, my own Lily Marlene, my lily of the lamplight, my own Lily Marlene.
We're coming to the top of the hour of our program. You're listening to Fresh Waves. This is Whistle Remembers. Coming up to the top of the hour, we'll play O Canada, followed by 2 minutes of silence to honor our veterans.
Shoulder!